So in this video, I'm going to talk about an increase in demand, but before that, I want to make sure that you remember how to predict changes in price and quantity. So the point that I want you to remember is a change in price stems from a change in demand, change in supply, or it can be both change in demand and change in supply. And that is what I want you to remember. Now, back on the track, what I want to talk about in this video is an increase in demand. And I'm going to start this off with an example, and this will be very helpful with your studies. So, the example is that we start at this point, equilibrium, right? And let's imagine that we're in a health club. So, in this example, more people actually join the health club, and that would increase our demand. So, more people joined our health club, so then our demand curve shifts rightward, or our demand for the energy bars for that health club increases. So the demand shifts from this blue line to this red line. Now, when the demand increases, so let's say that first that we have more gym members, and that increases demand for the energy bars, but let's just say it increases demand. So then it increases demand. And when it increases demand, what do we have? Well, now we have now we're at this point at a price of 150. At a price of 150 with increased demand, there is a shortage. So the demand rising, the demand increase caused a shortage of supplies, a shortage. So when the when demand increases, we know that both the price and the quantity must increase to reach equilibrium. See, we're right here. We're at a price of 150 and we're currently supplying 10. So to get to equilibrium, we must increase our price to 250 and we must increase our supply to 15. So let's just note that down. So when demand increases, demand increases equals, it means that both price and quantity must increase. So how do we do that? And wait, before that, I want you to say that to do that, there's an increase in quantity supplied, but no change in supply. So the main point is there's an increase in quantity supply. Quantity, and the key word here is quantity supply. Quantity supplied. And remember, quantity supplied means a movement along the supply curve. And you can see that our supply curve here didn't really change. We just moved along the supply curve to reach equilibrium. There is an increase in quantity supply, but no change in supply. And remember that change in supply actually means that the supply curve shifts. So a change in supply would be similar to this change in demand, where the blue curve changed or shifted rightward to the red curve, but there's no change in the supply curve, but an increase in the quantity supply, which is the movement. And so yeah, our supply curve stays the same, but the demand curve shifts rightward because of increased demand. This makes our price rise to reach a point of equilibrium where quantity supplied increases. So yeah, so the price rises to reach equilibrium point. So the price is at 150, it rises to 250 to reach the equilibrium point. And this is where quantity supplies increase and prices increase, moved up the line. Quantity demanded increase as well. We know that already, but because it's pretty intuitive that the the demand curve shifted, so it must have increased to make equilibrium, right? So that increases the price as well. And producers only make things if it makes a profit or it covers marginal costs. So to support to supply people with more bars, they actually increase their price to cover their marginal costs. That is why the price increased from 150 to 250. Now, the last topic I want to make is since we did an increase in demand, we might as well do the decrease in demand. A decrease in demand. Don't know why I say an increase or whatever, but a decrease in demand. Now, oh, that's a bad line. Now that a decrease in demand. Now, I don't really have a graph for us in decrease in demand like I do for increase in demand, and I don't really want to draw one, but I'm sure you can figure out how the graph would work. It's pretty intuitive. It goes the opposite way of an increase in demand. So, a decrease in demand, so I'll just note some points down. A decrease in demand. A decrease in demand arises from people switching substitutes. From people switching substitutes. Switching substitutes. And in this case, a decrease in demand shifts the curve leftward. Shifts curve leftward. So remember, in an increased demand, we shifted the graph rightward. So if it was a decrease, it will actually shift the curve. Leftward. So it will shift the red. The red line will go this way. And two predictions are made. What I mean by that is two predictions are made. And these two predictions are, drumroll. Let's see. So the first prediction is when demand increases. So when demand increases, both price and quantity would also increase. And when demand decreases, both price and quantity decreases. And we saw this happen when we were going through our increase in demand curve. When we increased our demand, both the price and quantity increase. So it's fairly intuitive that when our demand decreases, both our price and quantity also decreases. Now in the next video, I'll talk about supply, pretty much doing the same thing we did here, but with supply. And I hope you look forward to that, and thanks for watching.